Hey guys, as you can tell, cold here in Ohio. It is snowy and rainy outside. I'm up here doing some tackle prep. I apologize if you hear something over there hissing. I got a heater going. But it just made me think about today about confidence is king when it comes to fishing, especially in brutal conditions like it is. Again, right now it's 30-some degrees. It's actually less than that. It's 20-some degrees here in Ohio. This weekend I'm going to be fishing a little small club derby out at Yatesville this weekend. And I come up here to tie some baits on, and again, I have a heater running and it's still this cold in my garage. It's really cold. So I was thinking about baits that I absolutely have confidence in to catch bass no matter when any other baits fail. And I'm going to show you guys some of those today. And again, these are in no particular order. I'm going to show you some new baits that I've come across over the last few weeks that I feel like are going to play an arsenal or play a part in my arsenal for the 2023 fishing season. And the very first bait that I have the absolute most confidence in is some sort of crankbait, especially in the wintertime when it's really cold. A flat-sided crankbait, you know, something like a frit side, or, you know, there's a million different ones. You could talk about balsa baits, you could talk about anything, but I think in the wintertime, something having that really tight wobbling action is going to allow you to catch more fish. There are some baits that I throw into that without being flat-sided. The KVD, or the Strike King KVD 1.5 is absolutely probably my #1 crankbait of all time. There's a couple things that I want you to take a look at again when you're buying these baits. And again, so let's just look at a couple of these right here. This is a normal KVD 1.5. This is Delta Shad Collar. If it is cold or, you know, getting into the fall, winter, definitely in the spring, red seems to be a really, really hot collar. But I'm gonna tell you one thing. Don't overlook baits that have a lot of orange on them. When the waters are absolutely cold and brutal, orange is an amazing collar to throw. Now, this is, you know, probably not my favorite collar to throw in the cold months, but I want you to look at the difference in these packages. You have one here that is black, and it comes from either Cabela's or Bass Pro, depending on where you're at now. And one comes from your local tackle shop, like the Tackle Box or places like that. But these Tournament Series KVD, they actually have a louder rattle in them, in my opinion. You can actually hear these things. This is going to allow you to get more reaction strikes in the wintertime. I love a rattle in pretty much all crankbaits, and the louder the crankbait or the louder the bait in the winter, in the really cold months, I think you're going to find yourself putting more fish in the boat. Now, on that same exact note, again, there's 100 different types of crankbaits we can talk about. Again, something that's flat-sided like the frit side, or I'm not a huge fan of the KVD 1.5 flat. It does okay. The flat-sided one's okay. I'm talking about the deep one. I'm not a huge fan of the 1.5 deep. The 1.5 flat is a really good bait. But another good bait to, you know, guarantee yourself more confidence in catching fish in really cold water is going to be some sort of rattle trap or some sort of lipless crankbait. There's a few in here that are my absolute favorite. Again, in the springtime, you're going to see me throwing this red-eye shad here. I'm not sure. I'm sure this is some kind of Delta or Rayburn red. Orange, you can tell that there's a lot of orange on this bait. Again, this is not a 2-tap, but I would like to have a 2-tap. Differences in 2-tap is you have tungsten, and it's a lot louder. That's another one of my favorite collar baits there. But another one that I really throw a lot is this white. Can't get it out of the lure lock box because it is stuck in there. That stuff works really well. Unlike popular belief, it keeps your baits from beating around on each other. So again, this is just a white one. I'll put the collars in the description below. Again, this is not a 2-tap. I really like something that's really, really, really loud in the fall, wintertime. Definitely in the wintertime. Spring is really good too. But a couple of baits that really have come onto the market, in my opinion, for my fishing style is the Jackall TN60s. There are some smaller ones. I think these are all TN60s. Yes, these are all Jackall TN60s. This is one of my absolute favorite collars right here. Again, springtime. I'm sure you see a pattern here. This is going to be a red crawl pattern. Again, I'm not telling you the right collars of these. I'll put these in the description below. The reason I like these things is because they make an absolute ton of noise. The tip of these things are tungsten, so they can get down a lot quicker, being a smaller profile. These things have a lot of action in them. I like that collar. This is a you know, translucent collar, not going to be so good for the wintertime. Maybe depending on what you're going to do, matching the hatch. This is kind of a sexy shad pattern here. I like these TN60s because they're a lot smaller of a profile. So far, if I want to try to catch some more bass in wintertime, two of my baits are going to be crankbaits. It's going to be a lipless crankbait, whether that be a red-eye shad, or if it's going to be that Jackall TN60. But one of my favorite go-to baits ever, again, as I mentioned before, is the flat-sided crankbait. Well, Shimano, some of you guys may or may not know that Shimano actually has their own lure lineup now, and there's a lot of people that are digging into it, and I'm just now getting into it as well. This is the Macbeth Flat right here. Color, I can tell you for sure, is maybe I can Red Crawl. This is a Shimano. Come on, camera, focus. Give me one here. There we go, Shimano. This is an MB57 flat in Red Crawl. The cool thing about this is that this bait actually has what's known as Jet Boost technology. Inside of this bait, there is a weight system that moves when you cast it. I don't know if you can hear it or not. You can hear the rattles. But there is a weight system that moves back and forth in this bait to allow you to cast this small bait a lot farther. Again, that's called Jet Boost technology from Shimano. This is a new bait that I haven't thrown at all. I've got a couple of them here. Again, Jet Boost technology. Again, this is MB57F in Red Crawl, 2¼ inches. Depth is 3 to 5 feet. Really good location, really good depth for the cold months. A lot of times you'll find those fish a lot deeper. So that's when I'm going to step into my next realm of baits when I have a lot of confidence. Again, this video is about confidence is key. If I can't get bit, I'm going to try to start throwing, I always throw power fishing baits first, whether that be crankbaits, jerk baits, or whatever. And I'm going to show you guys a jerk bait here in a little bit because that's one of my top baits to guarantee that I catch fish. But the absolute most confidence that I have in a bait right now is a jig. And I've just come across several jigs here that I want you guys to take a look at. Several of these are things that I pour with a Do It mold. Some of them are not. Some of them are from Blue Rock Custom Tackle. Again, Jesse French makes an amazing bait. But a couple of the jigs here that I'm going to talk about are imperative that I have them either in my boat or tied on in my boat. And I'm not going to talk about collars right now because in my opinion, the collars of a bait in the wintertime, especially when you can't get bit, black and blue really works a lot. I like darker collars. Obviously, you're going to want to try to match the hatch. And I wish I had some of these up here. I'll put a couple pictures in the description below because I'm going to be pouring some of them up. But they are what's known as the hybrid grass jig from Do It. Again, these are baits that I pour myself. Again, the hybrid grass jig mold. I do have a video out there on it, and again, there's none in here. I have a literal whole box full of jigs. You can see here, there's probably 100 of them in here. Really cost effective to pour your own. Now let's talk about a couple of them. One of my favorite baits, especially when it comes to really cold weather or really cold water and you're trying to get bit, again, I keep saying this, confidence is key. The ability to throw a bait that you think is going to catch fish is imperative in my opinion. So this here is nothing more than a 3/8 ounce football head. Again, poured with a Do It mold. Darker collar. This is black, blue, and purple. One of the things that I've done, again, you guys have seen videos on this, is that I have modified my Do It mold to accept wire weed guards, which I like a lot better than those standard fiber weed guards. I do pour fiber weed guards on some of my baits. I do think they work really well. Again, that is a 3/8 ounce. Next thing I'm going to have is going to be a 3/4 ounce jig, something that I can get deeper with. If I grab some fish and they're deeper and they're on maybe you know, a bluff or a rock wall or something, and I want to get down there quick, this 3/4 ounce jig is going to be what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about trailers and stuff, but I have recently fallen in love with net bait trailers. I think they have some of the best trailers on the market. This right here is a Paca Chunk. This is a black. You get 6 packs. You get 6 in a pack. Again, this one here is all destroyed because I've been using the crap out of it. But a net bait trailer like this right here, I find, you know, something compact. I can also use the Paca Slim. I really like it as a trailer. The next couple of jigs I'm going to be talking about are going to be jigs that I can swim around grass and things. This is a poison tail jig. Notice the big sweeping hook on the back. This is a 3/8 ounce poison tail. The reason I like the poison tail and the hybrid grass jig is because they have eyes there. Hopefully you guys can see that, but there's eye sockets there. Again, did modify this mold to allow wired weed guards, but normally they come out as you know, as fiber weed guards. Now, those are jigs that I pour. Again, I like the hybrid grass jig a ton. The #1 jig I go to all the time is going to be the football head jig. Again, these are jigs that I pour, but you can pick them up anywhere. As well as the poison tail jig is a really good jig. But I just recently, again, talking about Blue Rock Custom Tackle, they have a couple of jigs that you shouldn't overlook if you're looking to add some more jigs to your lineup. Let me dig here in the bag of goodies. So they make a really small compact jig called the 1099. This 1099 right here, the thing about the 1099 jig, it's a finesse jig. It's a lot smaller of a bait. I do believe in the wintertime having a smaller profile is going to allow you to catch more bass. This again is the 1099 jig from Blue Rock Custom Tackle. No affiliation, just a buddy of mine. He was on my show a few weeks ago. If you guys are interested in getting your hands on anything from Blue Rock, my buddy Brandon Klein is a pro staffer for those guys. He has a promo called just Brandon Klein, BRANDONCLINE, and you can pick up these things for a little bit of a discount. This is a 1099 jig. I like the bigger end of the 1099 jig, and I know this is weird to say, but this is a 7/16, and that's practically as big as you can get right now. I like this compact jig. Really works well when you're wanting to downsize and try to catch those fish that are maybe lethargic in the wintertime. Now, another bait that I've absolutely fallen in love with that is his, and this is a triple threat jig, and I like the black one that's all black. I think it's called Blackout, maybe, I don't know. Don't hold me to that. But this one right here actually is a black and chartreuse one I bought for Lake St. Clair. But I do believe, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that these jigs work. I won a tournament, or it landed me one of the fish that won a tournament at Grace a few weeks ago, and again, it was an all black one. But this is a triple threat jig, kind of a Ned style bait that is hand tied, has a jig skirt on it. It is weedless. I had somebody reach out to me a few weeks ago and wanted to know if they could, you know, put a you know, if we could talk Jesse into maybe making this weedless, as far as like, so you could expose the hook if you're throwing a jig or a trailer. Again, one of my favorite baits to throw right now on the back of this thing is going to be the net bait Paca Slim in black and blue, cutting it down to about the first group of legs and then putting it on there. It does have a bait keeper on there. Again, hand tied, Ned style bait. This is a 1/4 ounce, I believe. Yep, 1/4 ounce. I like them a lot. Again, Blue Rock Custom Tackle. I'll put a link in the description below. Now, so we've talked about a couple of baits that I absolutely have confidence in, and I'm going to talk about the last two right now. So again, we talked about crankbaits, guys. Literally, there are hundreds of different styles. Like, I have 2 boxes right here, plumb full of nothing but, you know, probably 1 to 6 to 8 foot divers. A lot of these are flat sides. Again, Fritz sides. I like those a lot. Depends on where I could find the fish located, just to give you guys a couple ideas. And again, you know, already know, there's that red and orange crawl. This is a Fritz side. I like something that's, depending on the water quality, I like throwing bright baits in the cold weather. Again, the cool thing about those baits is, this is a Fritz side 5, both of these are. And if you guys could tell here, this is a flat-sided crankbait. The difference is between a flat-sided crankbait and a regular crankbait is that these things have a really tight wobble. And if you watch a shad in any kind of water, whether that be warm water, cold water, what have you, they have a really tight wobble. And I think that is imperative to catching bass in the really cold water, whether that be winter or spring. Now, one of my absolute favorite 1.5s, I'll show you guys this, because the reason I show you this is because they don't make them anymore. And I have a plethora of them. I probably have like last 10 of them on the planet, other than my buddy Kyle probably has the other 10 that are on the planet. This is one of my absolute favorite baits on the planet. I throw this thing a lot, especially in the springtime. Winter has that red pattern on it. Again, this is a rattling 1.5, and this color is actually not even made anymore, which is the way it goes. So that's a couple of baits I would throw in a crankbait style. I showed you some jigs. The next two baits are going to be confidence bait for me, and that they're kind of one and the same, but they're a little different. Obviously, we're talking about the jackhammer here. Obviously, this is a 3/8 ounce. I like 1/2 ounce, even in a 3/4 ounce when I'm talking about cold water, because it allows me to get down deeper if those fish are deep. Now guys, finding fish in the really cold months is half of the battle. Of course it's half the battle, it always is. But I normally find fish either super shallow or fairly deep. They're really never staged in that 6 to 10 foot range, especially in my area. They're either really deep or really shallow. And it depends on the water clarity and the water temperature, obviously, and what the fish are in the stage of their cycles of the year. But this is obviously a fire crawl chatterbait. I like these a lot. I like the chatterbaits. I like the fire crawl more than anything, or the jackhammer more than anything. I think the hooks are a little better. I think you get a bait that casts out and starts up immediately. I think one of the biggest things about having a chatterbait and catching more fish on these things is that having a bait that starts up immediately. When you cast the bait out there, when it hits near cover and when you're pulling it, when it starts its vibration and its action immediately, I think you're going to get more, more bites as you go on. Now, if you think about this, you cast something way up into a tree or next to a tree, and it takes it 5 foot for that thing to actually start working. Well, there's 5 foot of those prime fishing that you probably missed out on. So that's why I think that the jackhammer is worth it. Now on the side, or the thought of jackhammers, obviously I have the jackhammer, and I'm not sure that these baits are even made anymore, guys, so take that for what it's worth. But this one's obviously is, but little swim bait on the back of a chatterbait there works really well. I like anything with red and black. They do have a black and brown one. I think this is called red crawl maybe. I like, little darker presentation there. This is a 3/8 ounce bait as well. But again, these baits right here that I'm going to talk about, I'm not sure they're even made anymore, but I've caught one of the biggest bass in my entire life on this exact bait. This is made by, I think it's actually Pepper's Custom Jigs. I don't know if they're still in business or if they even make these baits anymore. I've had them for the better part of 10 years. But this is a Fred Rumbanis underspin jig. It's basically a swim jig with a willow leaf blade attached to the back of it. I know there's a lot of people making these things, but this collar right here is actually called Squeaky Dolphin. It's just white and chartreuse. I caught one of the biggest bass I've ever caught in my life on this thing. It's a 1/2 ounce, allows you to get way down there, reel this thing in, and catch bass off the bottom. Now, the biggest thing with that is that finding bass that are wanting to eat this thing, but also change your retrieve up. I'm not talking about ripping this thing, it's talking about uber cold water, so don't do that. But, I mean, you could, maybe they're eating. But normally I'm going to be having this thing a foot or two, maybe a couple inches off the bottom. I want this thing to be ticking off stuff, and this thing will cause a lot of reaction strikes. Again, this is a 1/2 ounce Fred Rumbanis Boom Boom Plus is what it's called, from Pepper Custom Jigs. And I don't believe they're even made anymore. They could be. So last but not least, we're going to talk about a jerk bait. Jerk baits for me, guys, are imperative. When I'm looking for a confidence bait, something that I can catch fish on, I like to say when the water temperature hits 50 degrees in the fall, all the way up until it hits 50 degrees in the spring, I have a lot of confidence in a jerk bait. A couple of these jerk baits I'm going to talk about are easy to find. You can find them in pretty much any tackle shop. One of them is the Jackall Re-Range 110. Really like this bait a ton. I like the white in a lot of crankbaits. I promise you, when you cast this thing for the first time, you're going to think you broke your line. It has that weight transfer system in there. You can cast this thing an absolute mile. Now, if you're on bigger fish and they're eating bigger baits, the Jackall Re-Range 130, I believe this is AU collar. Really like this one a lot too. very, very realistic. Like this on herring lakes and things like that. The next one is going to be something new that I've been talking about, and this is the this is the Shimano World Minnow. This is in I think clown, but if you notice in there, there is a piece of foil that continues moving after I stop working this bait. That's known as Flash Boost technology. This World Minnow, this is a 115. I do believe this is going to be a major player in my arsenal for years to come. My next and pretty much my favorite jerk bait when it comes to deep diving crankbaits is going to be the Shadow Rap Deep 9. That's what this is a Rapala. Has a little bit bigger bill on there. It's going to get down deeper. So if you find some fish that are lethargic in that deeper range and you feel like that you can catch them on a crankbait, you might want to look at that Shadow Rap Deep. But again, in order of how much I like them, it's going to be the Re-Range 110, Re-Range 130, and then it's going to be going to the Rapala series. I'm sorry, the Shimano World Minnow, talking about that those shallow fish, and then if they're deeper, going to be looking at that deep 7 or deep 9 from Rapala. So guys, that kind of wraps it up. It was kind of a long video, but I showed you guys some baits that I have the absolute most confidence in, especially in cold weather and cold water. It's cold here. I have been running a heater for 2 hours and it still is cold in here. It's crazy. We've got about an inch of snow outside. Looking for a tournament this weekend, go out and try to win. But again, some baits that I have the absolute most confidence in, especially when the water's really cold. I've just shown you there. And again, I believe that confidence when you're fishing is king. If you're not believing you're going to catch them, you might as well stay home. Guys, if you like this episode of On Another Line, I appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down there. It would help me a lot trying to get to that 6,000 subscriber mark by the end of the 2023 fishing season. With that being said, guys, if you can, get out there and lean on, we'll see you next time on Another Line.